When somebody, Brian Barcher, he is so good at what he does. He reinvents himself every couple of years, and he just keeps growing, and he just keeps growing, and just keeps growing. That is good for everybody. And when we don't celebrate other people's success, I think it's a sign for us that there's insecurity in us. When it's like, geez, that guy's channel blew up. What is he doing right? He's an idiot. He did this to blow his channel up. It shows me that I'm not in it for the animals. And I've had to face it myself, sitting in South Africa, seeing some channels blow up, having conversations with Kirsty, like, I don't understand. That guy's as boring as. And the channel's just going mental. If I'm really in it for the animals, I'm in it for other people's success as well, because the other person is getting animals into people's hearts. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes these people you might not like, or you don't like the way they do it, or they're too loud, or too quiet, or too boisterous, or too nerdy, or too whatever. They don't have the same animals you have. And if you're really in it for the animals, when they do well, you should be happy too, because more animals are getting into people's hearts. So one of my questions for all of us here is, what are you doing with your influence? What are you doing with your platform? Whether that influence is one person, or whether that influences hundreds of millions of people, what are you doing with your influence? Are you trying to build up your own page? Is it all about the followers? Is it all about the views? Is it all about Dingo? Or all about Kirsty? Or is it all about getting animals into people's hearts? And whether that's on your page, or somebody else's page, or somebody else's page, that's what really matters. So Carl and I have become friends lately. Carl came over to South Africa recently, and we're talking, this morning we had him breakfast, talking about how we can do things to save crocodilians in this world. Because I can only do so much. He can only do so much. The person sitting over here can only do so much. But when we look at each other on the side of animals, and on the side of me, and on the side of primitive predators, and on the side of New England reptiles, or whoever you represent, when we come together and collaborate together, we can really, really make a difference. So my question is more, not really are you an idiot, although it's a nice one, right? I like it. But is, what are you doing with your platform? What is your platform for? Is it all about you and your ego and I've got so many views, I don't have enough views and all that? Or is it about the animals that we say we really care about? Is it about your reticulated pythons, or your house snakes, or your crocodiles, or your king cobras? Is it about getting those into people's hearts? Or is it all about us building as big a channel as possible? Do I want to be famous? 100%. Do I want to have the biggest channel in the world? 100%. Why? Because the more fame you've got, the bigger your channel, the greater your message going out into the world. That needs to be the motivation, not the motivation of, I've got the biggest stick, I'm the most important, make the most money, or whatever else that comes with that. Another sign of insecurity, or sign that's become about you and not other people, is your social media animals get better care than your non-social media animals. I'm not saying there's not off-exhibit areas, we've all got them, right? But what I am saying is that there's certain animals, so I've got some animals that are pretty well known for, as a big king cobra. Most people know him who have watched our channel. I've got Kobe, our black mamba. I've got Bella, big reticulated python. All of those animals are really, really important to me. And they're important to a lot of people around the world. But if those are the ones that I look after, and the rest of the animals don't get fed, and they don't get looked after, and they don't get looked to, I would argue that it's all about me and not about the animals. I need to care as much for that little house snake over there as I do for my biggest crocodile, or as much for this ball python as I do for the most famous snake I've got. If I don't, I need to get rid of the ball python, because it has to be about the animals and not about me. Because if social media wasn't there, what could I be doing? If you didn't have social media in your life, you didn't have people following you, what would you do differently? Or are you only doing things because, geez, I better clean the tank because I'm filming tomorrow morning, and I've done that? 100%. Lance, my guy working with the snakes, he knows we're going live on a Friday night, or whenever we're going live, make sure that room's clean. But hopefully it's also clean on Wednesday. Hopefully it's also clean on Monday. John spent 2 weeks with us in South Africa. Good time. Good time. He was working in that snake room. And are we perfect? Not at all. Are there issues? 100%. I got there one day, there's a regurgitated rat from a forest cobra, there's mites on a gaboon viper, I'm losing my marbles about it. But it happens. I'm not saying we aim for perfection. But if we're not looking after all of our animals the same as we are on our social media animals, it shows me that I'm more about my own ego, I'm more about myself than I am about the animals. I need to be all about the animals. We need to preach animals, not egos. And there's too many of us who are going around doing egos. Another one, you get upset when people steal your content. So on my previous channel, I had guys rip whole videos and put them on their arbitrary channel in Malaysia. And it didn't get a lot of views, their channels. And I don't have an issue with saying to somebody, please take the video down. I'm not saying that's a problem, but photographers, us guys who are making videos, who are making content, when you are taking a photo of somebody, so if I go to Primitive Predators, I'm sorry to use you as an example again, if I go there, guys, and I take a photo of a Cuban crocodile, and then I publish that photo, and it's a cracking photo. You've never seen a Cuban looking so good in your life. And then somebody else takes that photo, and they put it out on Instagram Reel, and it suddenly goes mental. What was my motivation for taking that photo of Carl's crocodile? Firstly, it's not my crocodile. My motivation was I want to show people how amazing this crocodile is. So if I'm sharing it, or Shane is sharing it, I don't know who Shane is, that's why I use that name, Shane's sharing it, if my motivation is to get that Cuban crocodile into people's hearts, doesn't matter who shares it into people's hearts. And I understand for those of us in the business, this is a bit of a difficult thing to swallow. Johnny? Because there's money involved, there's business involved, there's a whole bunch of other issues involved with this. What I'm asking is, where's the line where it's my ego, and where's the line where it's, I care about animals getting into people's hearts, whether it's my photo, their photo, somebody else's photo. And I understand there's a whole bunch of issues, so I'm not saying if you have a problem with your photo being used, it's the end of the world. I'm just saying we need to check our hearts. I care about animals getting to people's hearts. So you want to take my photo and you want to put it out there and you don't give me credit. As long as it gets in people's hearts, I don't actually give it down. Go through my Instagram, steal anything you want to. Share it on your much bigger pages. Get it into people's hearts, because if they fall in love with black mambas, if they fall in love with king cobras, if they fall in love with crocodiles, that's what I give a stuff about. I don't care if they fall in love with me. It's great if they do. I love having meets and greets and people saying you're great. Love it. Absolutely love it. I love going to school shows. All the kids are like, no! I love that. But I love them falling more in love with animals than I love that. And for the young guns out here who are starting YouTube channels and you want to influence people, and we get so confused with all the attention that comes on us. It's not about you, it's about the animals. And don't start a YouTube channel about animals if it's not about the animals. Go like do a video games channel, or go and, I don't know, baking, or mowing lawns, or I don't know, making arts and crafts or something like that. Because it needs to be about the animals, not about yourself. Next sign that it's more about us than the animals is you suddenly become a Latin professor. Is anyone here Latin speaking? So why, when a reptile's name comes up, do you become Latin? So most of us here speak English, right? If you come to me and tell me a black mamba that I'm handling, if I'm holding a black mamba up here, and John was to come to me and say, oh, what a beautiful Dendroasis polylepis, I might let it go in his face. There's one of them in the world, one mamba that's grey, big black mouth, hood, and wants to bite you in the face. It's the black mamba. I don't need the scientific or the Latin name about it. We all know what we're talking about. Now, there is, and I'm going to qualify what I'm saying, there's a space for it. So I go to the ham show in Germany. You've got 53 different languages, no one understands what the hell's going on. And someone says sharp-nosed viper, and there's like 53 of those. Because there's one in China, there's one in South America, no one knows what you're talking about, so you use a scientific name. That makes sense. You use that Latin name. Some of the crocodilians, one of Carl's mates, he splits in species every second day. So sometimes it's easier saying cataphractus than saying West African slender snout, or is it slender snout, or is it Central African? No one knows anymore. Scientific name helps us. But when you come into me and say Dendroaspis polylepis, I'm going to hit you on the head with the microphone. And it's a sign that we're insecure. It's a sign that I can't say reticulate python, I have to say python reticulate something from me. What? There we go, thank you for that. Latin speakers. but what happens is that we put on suddenly, we try and act really, really clever. We try and say things that are unnecessary to say because it makes us look good. And for me, it's, you've forgotten an animal. And I know we've got some nerdy guys who that's how they talk, and that's fine, and I get it. And if you've said a scientific name, it's not a problem. I've said it since I've been here. I go up to certain animals like a parviocula, a Bitus parviocula. It's called an Ethiopian. Do you like it? What's it called? How do you know it's called Kapow? How do you know it's called an Ethiopian mountain ape? Because you watch our channel. Because I call it an Ethiopian mountain ape. But when we go to Germany, we're calling it a Bitus parviocula, so the Germans know what we're talking about, right? So there is times. You talk about Mangshan vipers, one of the rarest snakes in the world, 300 of them left in the wild. Some of the judgy guys go out there and they say the old name was Zauermia, so the Germans still call it Zauermia because they're a bit confused. Other people call it Mangshanensis. It's a Mangshan viper. It's a green dragon. It's beautiful colors. It looks like moss. It's one of the rarest snakes in the world. It's awesome. My point is when we're coming in and we're trying to act clever and we're trying to say Latin names and we're trying to do stuff like that, for me it shows something that's going on inside of here. It's about you sounding smart. It's not about the beautiful Mangshan viper. I don't care what you call the snake. But is your heart for that animal? Is your heart for yourself? Is it for your popularity? Is it for your smart? I want to look really smart to Donnie, so I'm going to call it whatever. Kevin McCurdy, frightfully clever guy. Weird, but frightfully clever. Very weird, eh? So Kev talks in different languages all the time, right? That's who Kev is. I've got no issues with that. But when I go to Kev, do I say, hey Kev, look at the ball python? Or am I trying to come up with a Latin name about the ball python? To sound smarter than I really am. When I'm around Kev, I actually dumb it right down. I try and be as dumb as I possibly can because it frustrates the life out of him. Is it making sense what I'm trying to say? Okay. Another way that's become about you and not about the animals, in my opinion, is you come to Animalcon and there's an entitlement as a creator. I expect to be paid to come here. I expect to be fed food here. Oh, it was only nachos last night for dinner. I expected ribs. Where are my ribs? I am important. It shows me you're all about yourself and not the animals. This conference, expo, whatever it's called, is a watershed moment for keepers in this continent and in the world potentially. The connections we're building here, the little kids that are meeting the heroes here can literally change the world. So get off your high horse. Tell them to put their checkbook away and get your backside over here and meet people and humble yourself a little bit, because it's about animals. It's about these little kids falling in love with animals and not about how much you're getting paid to fly here in all your glory and grace us with your presence. What about guys who only go to sessions when they are on the session and they won't sit through listening to somebody else? Obviously no one here, but other people. It shows me that you're all about yourself, that you're God's gift to the animal kingdom instead of coming in as a servant to the animal kingdom. I want to serve here. I want to take people to Africa and give them experiences that makes them fall in love with animals. I want to help out every single creator, every single kid that I possibly can, so that we can make a difference. Because there's fish people here, there's birds people here, the big cats guys. I met Real Tarzan yesterday. He's coming to South Africa, and Canada's coming to South Africa. Everyone's apparently coming to South Africa. Coolest place ever. You're all welcome to come. First, there's space in the house for everyone. We'll fit them in, don't worry. The point is, it's about the animals, not about us. You coming to Animalcon is about animals, not about you. You idiot. Alright, good one. I genuinely mean this with all of my heart. The reason you have a platform, I'm going to get a bit preachy now. The reason you have a platform is to get animals into people's hearts. That's it. Otherwise, Go and do something animal related. Go bake. Go cut those grasses and film it and make it a sexy TikTok reel with you dancing or in your G-string or something like that. But if you're working with animals, your motivation for working with animals needs to be to get animals into people's hearts. Anyone here influenced by Steve Irwin at all? If your hand's not up, you're wrong. Because you might say, oh, I don't know who Steve Irwin was because I'm like 10 years old. The person you follow was influenced by Steve Irwin, guaranteed. What was special about that guy? Did he make money? Sweet Lord, he made money. $20 million a year from his filming. Back in 2006. That's a lot of money. And what did he do with his money? Did he have a cool life? He had a great life. And he bought tracts of lands with his money. And he planted gum trees, eucalyptus trees. I mean, the most boring thing ever. Any Aussies here now? Okay, cool, the Aussies in the other room. That's great. He bought tracts of lands and planted gum trees and put koala bears on the gum trees. Koala bear, not a black rhino, not a tiger, not something amazing like that, but that's what he did with his money. And then he got reserves where he could protect wild populations of saltwater crocodiles. That's on top of all the work he did to get those animals into our hearts. We grow up thinking saltwater crocodiles are the greatest crocodiles in the world. Until we see a Nile crocodile, then we realize we're wrong. But why? Because Steve Irwin put saltwater crocodiles in our hearts. You grow up thinking Australian snakes are the most dangerous snakes in the world. Why? Danger, danger, danger. That's why. And they're not. They're the easiest snakes to handle in the world. They're very venomous, but they are this easy to handle. It's like a cobra having a bad day. That's what you're handling with an inland tarpon or something like that. But you had a guy who lived his life all about the animals, not about his ego, trying to get into people's hearts. And the reason I'm talking about him is I've spoken to people who know him. I wish I'd met him. I would have given both my testicles for that. Kids, ask your folks what that means. I'd still do it today, kids. Because he was a man that was so about the animals and was so authentic. And it wasn't about the image. And he went through hell. In Australia, he wasn't the hero he is now. When he was alive, he was the larrikin. He was the joke in Australia. People gave him a hard time all the time. All the croc farmers gave him a hard time all the time. He almost got in fisticuffs with one croc farmer because they were going on about how they kill these baby crocodiles. They stick screwdrivers in their heads, and then Steve got a bit angry with that. They went outside and he almost took them all on, like 5 or 6 of them at a time. But he was a guy who was passionate about animals. And he used his platform to get people to fall in love with animals. So what are you using your platform for? Some of you guys have got massive changes. You've got millions, gazillions of people watching you. Is it about, well, you can buy your helicopter now, you can buy your fancy car, you can do this. I've got no issues with any of that stuff. None of it at all. This is a $5,000 watch I'm wearing today. I got given it as a gift. And if I sold it, it would have looked bad. And I keep it, it looks bad, so I'm just happy with the watch, so we're carrying on. It's got a black strap, it works with the image, right? I'm not saying that you can't have a house. We've got a beautiful home we live in. I'm not saying that you can't have a good life. I'm not saying you can't travel. What I'm saying is it needs to all be about the animals if you're doing animal influencing. If you're an influencer, influence for the animals, not for yourself. Or go do a cooking show, or something else. Be passionate about what you do and what you influence. Let me just check one more thing here. In line with that, what's the goal of your platform? So you build up to 5 million subscribers and you're getting massive money and you walk here and you've got meet and greets until the swimming pool outside because you're so famous, and then what do? We all love conservation, right? I've got friends who run a crocodile farm. It was a skin farm back in the day, about 7 years ago. The owners of the farm changed it to, they call it now something, conservation center. So it's a crocodile conservation center. It's a really cool name. It even got 3 seasons. It works well. And what they do now, instead of breeding crocodiles for the skin trade, they breed crocodiles, they take the eggs, they give them to a croc farm that does the skin trade, and then the croc farm that does the skin trade trades them, instead of giving them cash, gives them meat to feed their 130 Nile crocodiles. It's exactly the same thing. So what are you doing for conservation? If you're genuinely in it for the animals, are you putting your hands, sometimes little short hands, in very deep pockets because you never find the money, you do the Macarena half the time? Or are you doing stuff that actually makes a difference for conservation? Education is one of the greatest gifts we've got. You do a video, it gets to 1 million people. You open up a zoo, you'll be lucky to get to 1 million people in a year. Something like Gatorland has 700,000 visitors a year going through, and that's in Orlando. That's the best ever. If we open up park in South Africa, if we get 100,000 guests through in a year, I'll do flick-flacks from here and back naked. I'll be so stoked. I'll be out of my mind stoked. Because like, please maybe not reach that. And we'll reach 100,000 people, and your videos are reaching 100,000 people maybe in a day. There was times on our old channel we were getting almost 1 million views a day on our channel. And then it's reaching a lot more people, and that's great. And people are falling in love with animals, and they're coming to us and they're saying, Dingo, you know what? I was scared of snakes, and now I love snakes. I was afraid of this, and now I'm really interested in it. I've got my own ball python. I've got my own fish. No one's ever said to me they've got their own fish from watching my videos. But if you're a fish person, they're going to fall in love with your fish. And that's all fantastic. It's amazing stuff. But are you doing anything on the ground in conservation anywhere in the world? I come from a country that is smashing rhinos. Smashing them. We lose over 1,000 rhinos every single year. At this rate, 7 years' time, no rhinos left. And I grew up knowing about rhino poaching and hearing about it all the time. And you must give money to rhino poaching and what. And then Kirsty and I got called out about 6 years ago. There were 4 rhino living in a reserve, small reserve. Poachers had come through, they shot 3 of the rhino and they missed the bull. So there were 3 cows in the bull. So the one cow was shot dead straight away. We came in to look for another cow who was injured, and the other cow had run off into the bush. And we looked for about 3/4 of the day for this cow, right? And we were like, you just want to touch a rhino, to be honest with you. Like, when you get a chance to touch a rhino, this is cool. Let's go. So we were walking through the bush, couldn't find the rhino, couldn't find the rhino, couldn't find the rhino. It's big and it's grey, it's like the size of a bus. How can we not find the rhino? The reason we couldn't find it is gone into the bush and had died in the bush, right? So we start, this horrible smell hits us. We walk up, we see this big cow lying there, rhino, female rhino is a cow, and she's lying there, big horn on her. The horn can be about this long to the ground, and she's dead. There's flies, there's maggots, there's all kinds of stuff. Putrid smell. So I'm with the vet. Now, part of the whole anti-poaching thing in South Africa is you have to find the bullet for ballistics in that, right? Because if that bullet's been used in another, or that gun's been used in another thing, you trace it, that's how you catch criminals and you put them in jail. So what happens is the vet now has to open up this rhino and try and find the bullet. The bullet went through the shoulder and went a long ways through the body of the animal, out the bum, in that area. So he starts cutting up his rhino, and he cuts it up and he cuts it up, and Kirsty and I are like, I've got a bad mock charge. This is no longer romantic touching a rhino. And digs it up, and suddenly he says there's a fetus inside. And we see this perfectly formed little baby rhino inside the mom. It took 7 years for a rhino to get pregnant. This is a 7-year-old rhino. First calf she was ever going to have. And some person came in and they shot that mom. And they took 2 rhinos out, 1 bullet. And then after that we went, and the bull was on the reserve still, but he still had a horn. So one of the things we do to stop poaching is we dehorn a rhino. The guys joined us when we were over now in Africa, and we dehorn a rhino. So you dart it, falls asleep, you take a chainsaw, you cut the horn off above the growth plate, you sand it down, and then that gives you about 2 years until it regrows. You know? It doesn't hurt the rhino. Obviously, it's a big thing to do. You chase it with a chopper, and it's pretty stressful, but it saves the rhino's life. It's brought down poaching by 90%. But it costs you almost $2,000 to do that for 1 rhino, because of the choppers and all the other things, and the veterinary drugs and everything else. So Kirsty and I go, we've seen the dead mom now, we've seen the dead calf, and we dehorn the bull. And I remember, so I might be a bit emotional with this one, but I remember coming up to this bull, and the chopper had landed, And we walked up, and there's this massive, big, black grey thing in the bush. And with the drugs, what it sometimes does is the body starts like convulsing a little bit, just the drugs working through it. And he starts shaking like this and shaking like this. And they give him another drug to calm him down a little bit. And it's a really strange feeling when you dehorn a rhino, because it feels good because you're helping the rhino, but it feels so unnatural because you're cutting the horn off of a rhino. It just is, it's loud, there's horn flying everywhere, it's like cutting a tree down, but it's this big, beautiful animal that shouldn't have to go through this. And I remember taking my hand and I put it on the bottom of the foot of this rhino, and it was dwarfed. It was like twice the size of my hand. And you hear this rhino breathing out, and he goes, like that. And he breathes in, and he goes, when he breathes out again. And something changed inside of me that day. And something changed inside of my wife that day. And instead of just having a YouTube channel to play with black marbles and have fun and come to America and see people who think you're great and buy your t-shirts and all that, I said to Kirsty, I genuinely want to make a difference. I don't want to say, oh, Steve Irwin influenced me, or Dad influenced me, and so I can have this big channel and I can have, oh, I'm a main person. I want to make a difference to rhinos, and I want to make a difference to pangolins, and to great white sharks, and to crocodilians, and to orca, and to whatever animal does it for you. Fish, spiders, ants, we've heard it all this weekend. But I genuinely want to do it, and my question to you is, what are you doing with your platform? With the money you make on it, with the time you get, with the attention you get, with the message you can spread. The best thing we ever did with our old channel is we took people who watched me to see if I was going to die from a black mamba bite, and we said to them, guys, we've got this rhino dehorning, and it costs $2,000. Here's a PayPal account if you want to be part of it, donate it, and we smashed it every single time within a day. And now there is an elephant that's needing work, or there is a rhino orphanage that we support and needs to raise some funds for the rhino orphanage, for a fence, or for a container, or for a new baby that's coming. We need milk formula for it. And we are able to take a snake channel and let it raise money for pangolins and rhinos and elephants and brown hyena and moving lions and all the things that actually need help. Black mambas, we've got enough in Africa, don't you worry. So I'll rescue one from a house, so it's great for that black mamba. But there's like another 100,000 in the bush, right? We're okay. Black rhinos, no, there's 5,000 left in the world. White rhinos, 15,000 left in the world. Pangolin, no one knows. They're the most trafficked mammal on the planet. And we're involved with the soft release program where it costs 100,000 rand, so let's call it $6,000, $7,000 a year just for the trackers, the satellite trackers for these pangolins. We need funds. We need things to change animals' lives because it needs to be all about the animal, not about our own egos, and not about us. So what are you doing with your platform? Whether your influence is one person, whether it's your mom who used to hate snakes and now she watches one of these guys with their videos, or whether it's millions of people who are watching the thing, you've got an opportunity to change the world. Steve Irwin was the greatest influence on animals anywhere back in 2006 when he died. The people who have come as influencers to this conference have got much greater reach than Steve Irwin ever had. Way bigger, way quicker, in people's homes around the world. I think Steve Irwin had a viewership of 200 million. Brian Barching's got 800 million views on one channel. There's other guys here with billions of views on one channel. We literally can change the world if we stick together and we make it about animals and not about ourselves. I'm going to end it off there. I don't want to be a heavy at all, but rather to say we can really, really make a difference. If you want to come and chat, please feel free. If you want to meet other creators and stuff, feel free. There's going to be another kind of a session up on the stage here in 15 minutes, but thank you for your time.